So speaking of wide receiver, Elijah Moore, do you have a gut instinct on him that you trust?
No.
The range of outcomes is pretty wide.
Yeah, no, I don't.
The bottom is he doesn't make the Bills.
Right.
The top is
he finally becomes the player so many analysts were dreaming of when he was drafted in the first place.
He could maybe be a star.
Yeah.
On this team. There's room.
Yeah. No, I don't, because I feel like I can see it. I can hear the case. I could make the case. There is an opportunity here. I think, unlike Palm, when you mention him and start thinking about having a conversation about him, I think it's interesting that I feel like we have been talking more. He comes up more often than Josh Palmer does. And I think that's because Josh Palmer is more sort of underwhelming. He played with a great quarterback. He had opportunity. The team was pretty good, and it never really blasted off. Like he had the 1 year with 60-something catches, and the other years are more modest than that, like 40-ish or something. And you can't really make all the excuses you can make for Elijah Moore. The list of quarterbacks that he had thrown him the ball is pretty awful. And so how much should a receiver be able to reach his ceiling when he's got Zach Wilson and whomever, Mike White, whoever else, the Jets and Browns? I mean, it's not good. So you have that, whereas Palmer really doesn't. He had Justin Herbert the whole time. And when everybody was healthy, he was third in the pecking order, rightly so, behind Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But even when those guys weren't there, it never really happened. So, Moore is more of a dream, whereas Palmer, you're just, I don't know. I'm probably just sort of expecting 50 catches and 4 touchdowns from Palmer. And if I'm wrong about that, great. He smashes. Because there is opportunity for him too here. If he's going to slide into really a number one type role, be on the field as much as any receiver for the Bills was on the field last year, and I think that's kind of how this is tracking, then maybe he can exceed that. But Moore is you shouldn't expect a lot because there really hasn't been that much, but there is a talented player in there that has not really changed. And maybe the Bills and /Allen/Brady can unlock that. And so do I trust that? It's so speculative that I can't really get to a place where I would want to say, oh, yeah, I can see him becoming someone who is pushing Shakir for the lead on the team in receptions, becomes their go-to guy or something. I mean, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of uphill for him to climb to get that playing time. With Moore, right? So I don't trust it, but I can get excited about him, but I don't trust it. If that makes sense.
Yep, that's right. That's fine.
You
wouldn't want to bet it.
I wouldn't. Depends on the odds.
Well, without
odds.
I
love losing bets. Yeah, I will.
You wouldn't want to bet on Elijah Moore catching 50 passes?
Yeah, no.
You wouldn't want to bet. You would want to bet on Palmer catching 50 passes?
I think that's the ceiling, I feel like.
I do too. I don't think I would bet either guy to catch 50 passes. Palmer's over 40 once. I think what you said most of it. What Palmer has is the fit. He was targeted by the Bills as a separator in free agency, whereas Moore was, I think, I'm not sure he was more of an afterthought because it was a different situation with him. He was going to get some sort of contract from the Browns if someone else didn't move in and sign him. Same with Dobbins and the Chargers, but then Denver signed Dobbins. And so there was basically the Browns were, if they didn't want Elijah Moore for themselves, they had it set up where they would probably get a comp pick if this happened. So they'll maybe get a comp pick for him, or they just have him at a low salary. But as it happens, both guys got away. So from their original teams or most recent teams. So Palmer, I think, has it. The Bills have a certain idea, a plan for him that may or may not be extensive. It may or may not be 50% of the snaps, but it's going to be third down. It's going to be, long yardage. Joshua Palmer, I think, is on the field. Mm-hmm. And Moore, while, they did spend to sign him, I feel like it's more of a tryout with him.
Yeah. And
that could be wrong. It could be wrong because maybe if you're trying to read, as I'm doing, the details, it could be wrong because of that point about the contract. Like, waiting was available to the Bills on this guy. They could have been outbid. It could have ended up signing with someone else, but maybe they were tracking it. Maybe they were in contact, if they were allowed to be, with his people. I think we want to do this, but it ended up being a longer process, or it was just a change of plans and then it went and signed him. I doubt it's that casual.
Yeah.
So I do think what Palmer has is the fit. What Moore has is maybe not as high on the pecking order, but I think what he has is he's the better player. He was the better prospect. They were in the same draft. They're both 25 now. They were in the 21 draft. Elijah Moore was one of the first picks of the second round, if not the first pick of the second round. That's what Coleman was, of course. He was a better prospect. Palmer was mid third, which doesn't say everything, but Moore ran 4.35 at the combine.
Right.
He was more of a star coming into the draft, into the league. And the excuses are those quarterbacks and the teams, the offenses he played for. He had a couple of bigger games with Cleveland, one with Jameis Winston last year. I think the other was with Watson. He had a 100-yard game against the Ravens. So I kind of think that Moore has the greater upside.
Right. That's what I think too. But what is that? What does that amount to?
Are the Bills open to letting that be possible?
What kind of opportunity is there going to be? Samuel is making 3 times the money, twice maybe. It's close. So I think he and Moore. I shouldn't go too hard on connecting the two of them as being duplicates, but it's hard for me to see both of them being significant contributors.
Yeah.
It almost feels to me like if one of them is going to hit, it's going to be at the expense of the other. Playing time, targets, all of it. And so, we didn't get the full Samuel last year because he was compromised coming out of the summer and into the start of the season. And you started to see, if Moore's not here, I think we're probably talking about Curtis Samuel as much as anyone in that receiving group, maybe even probably more than Palmer.
But less than Coleman.
But sure, agreed. But they are both here now, and I'm having trouble finding my way to who is going to get. Are they going to just share snaps? Are each of them going to play 40% of the snaps or less or something? I just don't know what kind of opportunity there is going to be. That is what makes maybe the summer and practices and even preseason games somewhat interesting. I don't know how much. Hopefully, Allen doesn't play at all in the preseason, so throw that out. It's really practices, joint practices, who's on the field with whom. Well, how often are they using Moore? Are Moore and Samuel ever out there together? Who are they in place of? What are the roles? It's so hard to know that sitting here now. Again, the commitment to Samuel financially is significantly bigger enough for me to point it out here. But it doesn't have to mean everything. It's not like he's making $15 million or something. It's half of that. but Moore is like 2.5 or something. So I don't know if they'll feel compelled to like make sure they max that out or something. Like that doesn't even hardly make sense. It's such a puzzle with those guys. Do they all want to play? Do the Bills want them all to play in the slot? Who's on the outside? I feel like Coleman and Palmer are your reliable outside receivers. Everybody else is just sort of, and Shakir's at the top of that pecking order. So what?
And that sounds so unappealing to me.
Where is there going to be space for these guys?
I mean, how does this team win again with that kind of wide receiver talent? How do they do it? Maybe they will. They just did it. They stuffed it in their critics' faces